The morning sun was already burning hot when Priya woke up on the thin mattress she shared with her grandmother. Their tiny room felt like an oven, and she could hear the familiar sounds of their neighborhood coming to life. People were already shouting, children were crying, and the smell of cooking oil mixed with dust filled the air. Priya looked at her grandmother, who was still sleeping. The old woman's breathing was shallow and difficult. She had been sick for months now, and the medicine from the local clinic wasn't helping much. Priya touched her grandmother's forehead gently. It was burning with fever again. "Nani, wake up," Priya whispered softly. "You need to take your medicine." Her grandmother opened her tired eyes and smiled weakly. "My dear child, you worry too." "Much about me. What about your breakfast?" Priya's stomach was empty, but she couldn't tell her grandmother that they had only one piece of bread left, and she had already decided her grandmother needed it more. "I'm not hungry, Nani. You eat?" First, she helped her grandmother sit up and gave her the bread with some water. Priya watched her eat slowly, feeling happy that at least her grandmother was getting something. But she was worried about their water supply. They only had one bottle left, and it would have to last until tomorrow when she could earn some money. From her cleaning job, after her grandmother finished eating, Priya stepped outside their small room. The heat hit her face like a wall. It was only 9 in the morning, but the sun was already making the metal roofs too hot to touch. She sat on the small step outside their door and looked at the narrow street filled with people. Bicycles and stray dogs. Their neighborhood was crowded and noisy. Small shops lined both sides of the street, selling everything from vegetables to cheap clothes. Women were already hanging wet clothes on lines stretched between buildings. Children were playing in the dust, their laughter mixing with the sound of car horns and vendors shouting their prices. Priya pulled out the water bottle and looked at it. Should she drink some now? She was really thirsty, but she knew this water had to last. Her grandmother would need more medicine later, and she would need water to take it. Priya decided to wait. She had been hungry and thirsty before. She could handle it. She was thinking about where she might find some work today when she heard shouting from the end of the street. It wasn't the usual kind of shouting she was used to. This sounded different. Someone was in trouble? A boy came running around the corner, and Priya could see right away that something was very wrong. He was wearing a clean white shirt and dark blue pants, the kind of uniform that expensive schools used. His clothes were completely soaked with sweat, and his face was red from the heat and crying. The boy stopped in the middle of the street and turned around in circles, looking lost and scared. He was shouting something, but Priya couldn't understand all the words. He was mixing Hindi and English together, and his voice was shaking. "Please, has anyone seen a black car?" "My driver." "Where is my driver?" the boy cried out. "I can't find my father's car." People walking by looked at him for a moment, but nobody stopped to help. Everyone was busy with their own problems. Some people stared because his clothes looked expensive, but they kept walking. In their neighborhood, people didn't usually get involved with strangers, especially ones who looked like they came from rich families. Priya watched the boy for a few minutes. He looked to be about 12 years old, maybe a little older. His face was getting redder, and she could see that he was having trouble breathing. She had seen people get sick from the heat before. This boy was in real danger. Without thinking too much about it, Priya stood up and walked toward him. As she got closer, she could see that his lips were starting to turn white. He was so hot that his hands were shaking. She had seen this before with construction workers who stayed out in the sun too long. "Hey," she said softly, trying not to scare him. "Are you okay?" The boy looked at her with desperate eyes. "I'm lost. I can't find my father's car." "We stopped somewhere near here, and I got out to look around, but now I can't find them. I've been walking for hours." Priya could see that he was about to collapse. She didn't hesitate. She took out their last bottle of water and held it out to him. "Here, drink this. You're too hot." The boy stared at the bottle, then at Priya. "Are you sure? This looks like your only water." "Just drink it," Priya said firmly. "You need it more than I do right now." The boy took the bottle with shaking hands and drank deeply. Priya watched as some color came back to his face. She could see him starting to breathe more normally. When he finished drinking, he looked at her with grateful eyes. Thank you so much. I thought I was going to die. My name is Arjun. What's your name? I'm Priya, and you weren't going to die, but you were getting really sick from the heat. Where did you last see your father's car? Arjun wiped his face with his sleeve. I don't know. We were visiting some factory and my father was talking to some men. I saw a cricket game happening in a field nearby, so I went to watch. But when I came back, the car was gone. I think they went looking for me, but I don't know where. Priya looked at this boy who was clearly from a wealthy family. His shoes probably cost more than her family spent on food in a month. But right now, he was just a scared child who needed help. She made a decision that would change everything, though she had no way of knowing it at the time. Don't worry. I'll help you find your family. I know this area really well. But first you need to cool down more. She took off her dupatta, the light scarf she wore over her head, and dipped it in some water from a nearby tap. She wrung it out and handed it to Arjun. Put this on your head. It will help you feel better. Arjun looked surprised. But this is yours. Won't you need it? I'll be fine. I'm used to the heat. You're not. As Arjun put the damp cloth on his head, Priya was already thinking about where they should start looking. She knew all the factories in this area, and she knew which roads cars usually took. But it was going to be a long, hot day of searching. Okay, she said, let's go find your family, but we have to be smart about it. This heat can make you sick again, so we'll walk in the shade when we can, and we'll take breaks. Arjun nodded gratefully. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me, Priya shrugged. Because you need help. That's what people should do for each other. As they started walking down the street together, Priya didn't know that this simple act of kindness would completely change her life. She was just a 15-year-old girl who saw someone in trouble and decided to help. But sometimes that's all it takes to start something amazing. The sun was getting hotter as Priya and Arjun walked through the narrow streets. Priya could feel the heat coming up from the ground through her thin slippers, but she was more worried about Arjun. Even though he had drunk the water, she could see that he was still struggling with the heat. Tell me more about where you were, Priya said as they walked. What did the factory look like? Do you remember anything special about it? Arjun thought for a moment, wiping sweat from his forehead. It was a big white building with blue gates. There were lots of trucks parked outside. My father said something about textiles, I think. And there was a small tea shop right next to it. Priya knew several factories that matched that description. But they were spread out across different parts of the neighborhood, and it would take hours to check them all. She decided to start with the closest one and work their way out. We'll find it, she said confidently. But first, let's stop at this shop. The uncle who runs it knows everyone around here. They stopped at a small vegetable shop where an elderly man was sitting under a torn umbrella, trying to stay cool. His vegetables were wilting in the heat, and he was spraying water on them with a plastic bottle. Uncle, Priya said respectfully, have you seen any black cars today? Big expensive ones? The man looked up at them with curious eyes. He noticed Arjun's school uniform and then looked at Priya's simple clothes. Why are you asking, Beta? This boy got separated from his family. They were visiting a factory nearby. We're trying to find them. The old man's face softened. Poor child. Yes, I saw a big black car this morning. It was going very fast toward the industrial area. The driver looked worried. Maybe that was them looking for you? Arjun's face lit up with hope. Which direction did they go? The man pointed down a street that led away from the main road. That way, toward the big factories, but that was hours ago. They might be anywhere by now. Priya thanked the man and they started walking in that direction. The streets here were wider, but dustier. Big trucks rumbled past them, covering everything in a layer of dirt. The air smelled of diesel and hot metal. As they walked, Priya learned more about Arjun's life. He told her about his school, his friends, and his father's business. But he also asked questions about her life, and Priya found herself telling him things she rarely talked about. My grandmother used to be a teacher, she said as they walked past a group of children playing in the dirt. She taught me to read and write when I was little. I loved going to school, but when she got sick, I had to stop to take care of her. Don't. You miss it? Arjun asked. School, I mean. Priya was quiet for a moment, every day. But my grandmother needs me more than I need school right now. They reached the industrial area where several factories stood side by side. The first one had red gates, not blue. The second one was under construction, but the third one looked promising. It was white with blue gates and there were trucks parked outside. That might be it, Arjun said excitedly. They went to the security guard at the gate. He was a young man who looked tired and bored. Excuse me, Priya said. Was there a black car here this morning, with a man and his driver? The guard looked them up and down suspiciously. Who wants to know? This boy got separated from his father. They were visiting this factory. The guard's expression changed. Oh, you mean Mr. Sharma? Yes, he was here this morning, but he left hours ago. He seemed very upset about something. His driver was asking everyone if they had seen a boy. Arjun's shoulders sagged with disappointment. They were looking for me, but I wasn't here. Priya put a comforting hand on his shoulder. Don't worry. If they were looking for you, they're probably still looking. We just need to figure out where they went next. The guard felt sorry for them. They asked about the police station. Maybe they went there to report that you were missing. This gave Priya an idea. Come on, let's go to the police station. Even if they're not there, we should report that you're lost. That way, if they call the police, they'll know where to find you. The walk to the police station took 30 minutes. By now, both of them were exhausted and very thirsty. Priya's feet were starting to hurt badly. Her old slippers weren't meant for this much walking, and she could feel blisters forming. But she didn't complain. She could see that Arjun was trying his best to keep up despite the heat. The police station was a small, crowded building with a few policemen sitting outside under a tree. They looked up as Priya and Arjun approached. Sir, Priya said to the oldest policeman, this boy is lost. He got separated from his father this morning. The policeman looked at Arjun's uniform and then at Priya. What's your father's name, son? Vikram. Sharma. He owns Sharma Industries. We were visiting a factory and I got lost. The policeman's attitude changed immediately when he heard the name. Sharma Industries? Wait here. He went inside the building and came back a few minutes later. With a piece of paper. Someone called about a missing boy about an hour ago. They left this number. He handed the paper to Arjun. But the phone lines are down right now because of some repair work. You'll have to wait until evening to call. Arjun looked at the paper. With tears in his eyes. This is my father's number. He was looking for me. Don't cry, the policeman said kindly. Your father also left word that if you showed up, we should keep you here until he comes back. But it might be a while. Priya saw how upset Arjun was getting. Sir, maybe we can go look for them instead of waiting. If they're driving around searching, we might find them faster. The policeman looked uncertain. I don't know. It might be safer to wait here. Please, Arjun said. I just want to find my father. And this girl has been helping me all day. I trust her, the policeman finally agreed. Okay, but be careful, and if you don't find them in 2 hours, come back here. As they left the police station, Priya was thinking hard. Where would a worried father go to look for his lost son? She thought about all the places where lost children were usually taken. Let's try the hospital, she said. Sometimes when people can't find their family, they check the hospitals. The walk to the hospital took another hour. By now, the sun was starting to go down, but it was still very hot. Priya's feet were really hurting now, and she could see blood on her slippers where the blisters had burst. But she didn't want to worry Arjun, so she kept walking. At the hospital, they asked at the information desk. The lady there was very kind and checked her records, but no one had asked about a missing boy. However, she suggested they try the children's hospital on the other side of town. That's really far, Arjun said, looking worried. And you're hurt. I can see your feet bleeding. Priya looked down at her feet. The blood was more visible now, but she tried to smile. I'm okay, let's keep looking. But as they started walking, again Priya felt dizzy. She hadn't eaten anything all day, and she had given away their only water. The heat and exhaustion were finally catching up with her. Priya? Arjun noticed she was walking slower. Are you okay? Before she could answer, they heard a sound that made them both stop. It was a car horn, but not just any car horn. It was honking in a desperate, frantic way that could only mean one thing. Someone was looking for something very important. They both turned toward the sound, and in the distance they could see a black car driving slowly down the street. The driver was honking the horn while someone in the back seat was calling out of the window. Arjun! Arjun! Where are you? Arjun's face lit up with joy and relief. That's my father. That's his voice. He started running toward the car, shouting and waving his arms. Papa! Papa! I'm here! The car stopped so suddenly that the tires made a loud noise on the road. A man jumped out of the back seat and ran toward Arjun. Even from a distance, Priya could see the relief and happiness on his face. Father and son met in the middle of the street, hugging each other tightly. Priya watched from where she was standing, feeling happy, but also suddenly very aware of how tired and hungry she was. She had helped reunite a family, but now she wondered if she would have enough strength to walk home. Priya watched from a distance as Arjun hugged his father tightly. The man was crying with relief, holding his son like he never wanted to let him go again. She could hear him saying, thank God, over and over again in both Hindi and English. After a few moments, Arjun pulled away from his father and pointed toward Priya. Papa, that girl saved my life. She gave me her last bottle of water and helped me look for you all day. The man looked in Priya's direction, and she felt suddenly embarrassed. She was dirty from walking all day, her clothes were covered in dust, and she knew her feet were bleeding. She probably looked like a mess compared to these people with their expensive car and nice clothes, but instead of looking at her with judgment, the man's eyes filled with something that looked like wonder. He walked toward her slowly, and she could see that he was still emotional from finding his son. You help my son? He asked softly. Priya nodded, suddenly feeling shy. He needed help. Anyone would have done the same thing. The man shook his head. No, not everyone would have done what you did. My name is Vikram Sharma. What's your name? Priya, sir. Priya, I don't know how to thank you. Arjun told me you gave him your last bottle of water. You walked with him for hours looking for us. You didn't have to do any of that. Priya looked down at her feet. It's okay, sir. I'm just happy he found you. Vikram pulled out his wallet and took out a thick bundle of money. Please, let me give you something. What you did today, ... It's priceless. But I want to help you too. Priya stepped back, shaking her head. No, sir, I don't want money. I just helped because it was the right thing to do. Vikram stared at her in amazement. Here was a girl who was clearly very poor, who had sacrificed her own needs for his son, and she was refusing his money. He had met many people in his business life, but he had never met anyone like this. At least let me drive you home, he said. You must be exhausted. Priya hesitated. She was so tired that she wasn't sure she could walk all the way home. Her feet were really hurting now, and she felt dizzy from not eating all day. Okay, sir. Thank you. As they walked to the car, Vikram noticed how Priya was limping. You hurt? It's nothing, sir, just blisters from walking. Vikram felt his heart sink. This girl had hurt herself helping his son, and she was acting like it was nothing. He opened the car door for her and helped her sit in the comfortable leather seat. Where do you live? He asked as they started driving. Priya gave him directions to her neighborhood. As they drove, she couldn't help but look around the inside of the car. It was the nicest car she had ever been in. The seats were soft, and there was air conditioning that made her feel cool for the first time all day. Arjun sat next to her and kept thanking her. Priya, I was so scared. If you hadn't found me, I don't know what would have happened. You would have been okay, Priya said kindly. Someone else would have helped you. But they didn't, Arjun said. Lots of people saw me, but only you stopped to help. When they reached Priya's neighborhood, Vikram looked around in shock. He had known there were poor areas in the city, but he had never actually seen them up close. The streets were narrow and crowded, with small houses packed together. There was garbage in some places, and the smell was very different from his part of the city. "Here," Priya said, pointing to a small building. "I live on the second floor." Vikram parked the car and got out with Priya and Arjun. "I'd like to meet your family and thank them for raising such a wonderful daughter." Priya felt nervous. "Sir, our place is very small, and my grandmother is sick. Maybe it's better if you just drop me here." "Please," Vikram said gently. "I want to meet her." They climbed the narrow stairs to the second floor. The stairway was dark and smelled of cooking spices and dampness. When they reached Priya's door, she hesitated for a moment before opening. "Nani, I'm back," she called softly. The room was tiny, with just one small window and a fan that barely worked. There was a thin mattress on the floor, a small table, and a few pots and pans in one corner. Priya's grandmother was lying on the mattress, looking very weak. "Priya, child, where have you been all day?" "I was so worried," her grandmother said. In a weak voice, "I'm sorry, Nani, I was helping someone." Priya knelt beside her grandmother and felt her forehead. It was still hot with fever. Vikram stood in the doorway, feeling overwhelmed. The entire room was smaller than his bathroom at home, but despite the poverty, everything was clean and organized. There was a small shelf with some books, and he could see that someone had tried to make the place as comfortable as possible. "Nani, these people—" "I helped their son today, and they wanted to meet you." The old woman tried to sit up, but she was too weak. Vikram quickly stepped forward. "Please don't get up, I'm Vikram Sharma." "Your granddaughter saved my son's life today?" The grandmother looked at Priya with surprise. "What happened, child?" As Priya told her grandmother the story, Vikram looked around the room more carefully. He noticed that there was no food anywhere. The water pot in the corner was empty. On the small table, there was a bottle of medicine and some papers that looked like medical bills. When Priya finished her story, her grandmother's eyes filled with tears. "That's my girl. I always taught her to help others, even when we have nothing ourselves." "Ma'am," Vikram said respectfully, "your granddaughter is extraordinary. She gave away your last bottle of water to help my son. She walked for hours with bleeding feet to help him find me. I have never met anyone with such a kind heart." The grandmother smiled weakly. "She gets it from her mother. My daughter was the same way before she died. Always helping others." Vikram felt a lump in his throat. "Ma'am, I want to do something to thank you both." "Please let me help." The old woman shook her head. "Sir, you are very kind, but we don't need charity. We may be poor, but we have our dignity." "It's not charity," Vikram said quickly. "It's gratitude. Your granddaughter gave my family the most precious gift possible. She brought my son back to me safely. Please let me do something in return." Priya looked uncomfortable. "Sir, really, you don't need to do anything. I just did what anyone should do." "But you did do it," Vikram said. "And that makes all the difference." He knelt down beside the grandmother's mattress. "Ma'am, I can see that you're not well, and I can see that you're both struggling. But I also see that you've raised an incredible young woman. She has intelligence, compassion, and strength that you don't find in many people." The grandmother looked at Priya with pride. "She's always been special. She was the smartest student in her class before she had to leave school to take care of me." "She had to leave school?" Vikram asked. 2 years ago, when I got sick, someone had to work to pay for my medicine and our rent. Priya is only 15, but she's been taking care of both of us." Vikram felt his heart breaking. This girl was only 15 years old, and she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She had sacrificed her education, her childhood, everything to take care of her sick grandmother. And today, she had also sacrificed her own needs to help a stranger. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "what if I told you that I could help both of you? What if I could make sure you get the best medical care? And what if Priya could go back to school?" The grandmother and Priya both stared at him in shock. "Sir," the grandmother said carefully, "that's very kind of you, but we couldn't accept such a big favor." "It's not a favor," Vikram said. "It's the right thing to do. Today, your granddaughter showed me what real kindness looks like. She showed me that even when you have nothing, you can still give everything to help someone else." That's a lesson worth more than any business deal I've ever made. He stood up and looked at both of them. I'm not asking you to decide right now, but please think about it. I have the means to help, and you have given me a reason to want to. Help? Sometimes that's how the world works. We help each other. Priya looked at her grandmother, and they had a whole conversation with just their eyes. Finally, the old woman spoke. Sir, if you really want to help, then I won't say no. But I want you to know that whatever you do for us, we will find a way. To pay it back someday? Vikram smiled for the first time since the morning. Ma'am, your granddaughter already paid it back. She gave me my son. As they prepared to leave, Vikram took out a piece of paper and wrote down his phone number. I'll be back tomorrow to talk more about this. But for tonight, please, let me send someone with some food and medicine. Priya started to protest, but her grandmother stopped her. Let him help, child. Sometimes we have to let people be kind to us, too. After Vikram and Arjun left, Priya sat beside her grandmother in the quiet room. Nani, do you think this is real? Do you think he really wants to help us? Her grandmother reached out and touched Priya's face gently. I think, my dear, that your kindness has come back to you. The world has a way of rewarding good people, even when it takes a while. That night, as Priya lay on their thin mattress, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about everything that had happened. When she woke up that morning, she was just a poor girl worried about her sick grandmother. Now, everything might be about to change. She didn't know yet just how much her life was about to transform. But she was about to find out that sometimes one act of kindness can change everything. The next morning, Priya woke up to the sound of someone knocking on their door. She looked at her grandmother, who was still sleeping peacefully. For the first time in weeks, her grandmother's breathing seemed easier, and her fever had gone down. A little. Who could be here so early? Priya whispered to herself as she went to open the door. Outside stood a well-dressed woman holding several bags. Are you Priya? Mr. Sharma sent me. I'm Dr. Meera Patel. Priya stared at the woman in confusion. A doctor? But we didn't call for a doctor, Dr. Patel smiled kindly. Mr. Sharma told me about your grandmother. He asked me to come and check on her. May I come in? Priya hesitated for a moment, then opened the door wider. The doctor entered their small room and immediately went to where Priya's grandmother was lying. The old woman had woken up when she heard voices. Good morning, ma'am. I'm Dr. Patel. A friend of your granddaughter asked me to come see you. Over. The next hour, Dr. Patel examined Priya's grandmother carefully. She checked her temperature, listened to her breathing, and asked many questions about her symptoms. Priya watched nervously, wondering what the doctor would say. Your grandmother has pneumonia, Dr. Patel finally said. It's quite serious, but it's definitely treatable. The medicine she's been taking from the local clinic isn't strong enough. She needs proper antibiotics and some other treatments. Priya's heart sank. How much will that cost, doctor? Don't worry about the cost, Dr. Patel said gently. Mr. Sharma is taking care of everything. I'm going to start her treatment right away. The doctor gave Priya's grandmother an injection and left several bottles of medicine. She also left detailed instructions about how to take care of her grandmother. I'll be back tomorrow to check on her, she said before leaving. Later that afternoon, Vikram arrived with Arjun, but they weren't alone. With them was a young woman carrying bags of groceries and a man carrying what looked like a new fan. How is your grandmother feeling? Vikram asked as soon as he saw Priya. Better, sir. The doctor you sent was very kind. Thank you so much. Vikram smiled. I'm glad to hear that. Now, I want to talk to you about something important. But first, let me introduce you to someone. This is Kavya, my assistant. She's going to help us with some arrangements. Kavya stepped forward and smiled warmly at Priya. Hello, Priya. Mr. Sharma has told me so much about you. I'm honored to meet you. Priya felt overwhelmed. She wasn't used to so many people treating her with such respect and kindness. Thank you, ma'am. Please call me Kavya. We're going to be working together a lot in the coming weeks. Working together? Priya asked, confused. Vikram sat down on the small stool that was the only chair in the room. Priya, I've been thinking about what you told me yesterday. You said you had to leave school to take care of your grandmother? How old were you when you stopped going to school? 13, sir. I was in 8th grade, and you were a good student? Priya's grandmother spoke up from her mattress. She was the best student in her class. Her teachers said she was very smart, especially in mathematics. And science? Vikram nodded. That's what I thought. Priya, I want to give you a choice. You can either come work for my company, where I'll train you and give you a good salary, or you can go back to school. If you choose school, I'll pay for everything, your fees, books, uniforms, everything. And I'll also make sure your grandmother gets the best medical care. Priya stared at him in shock. Sir, that's too much. I can't accept such a big favor. It's not a favor, Vikram said firmly. Yesterday you gave me something that money can't buy. You gave me my son back. Now I want to give you something that will change your life forever, a chance to get an education. Priya looked at her grandmother, who had tears in her eyes. What do you think, Nani? Child, you know what I think. Education is the most important thing in the world. It's something no one can ever take away from you. But what about taking care of you? Priya asked. Vikram spoke up. That's all arranged. If you choose to go to school, we'll find a nice apartment for you and your grandmother in a better area. We'll hire a nurse to take care of your grandmother during the day while you're at school. And we'll make sure she gets regular checkups with the best doctors. Priya felt like she was dreaming. But sir, why would you do all this for us? Because yesterday you showed me what a real hero looks like. Heroes don't wear fancy clothes or drive expensive cars. They're people who help others even when they have nothing themselves. I want to make sure heroes like you get the chances they deserve. Arjun, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Priya, please say yes. I want you to come to my school. I want to be your friend properly. Your school? Priya asked. Vikram nodded. I want to enroll you in the same school as Arjun. It's one of the best schools in the city. They have excellent teachers and facilities. You'll be able to catch up on what you missed and then continue your education. Priya's mind was spinning. Just yesterday, she had been worried about where their next meal would come from. Now, this man was offering her a chance to go to one of the best schools in the city. I don't know what to say, sir. Say yes, her grandmother said softly. Say yes to your future, child. Over the next few days, things moved very quickly. Kavya helped Priya and her grandmother pack their few belongings. Vikram had found them a small but clean apartment in a much better neighborhood. It had 2 rooms, a proper bathroom, and a kitchen. For Priya, it felt like a palace. The nurse who came to take care of her grandmother was a kind middle-aged woman named Rita. She had experience taking care of elderly patients and knew how to make Priya's grandmother comfortable. With proper medicine and care, the old woman was already looking much better. I can't believe this is happening, Priya said to Kavya as they arranged her new room. 3 days ago, I was worried about having enough money for my grandmother's medicine. Now look at all this. Your kindness changed everything, Kavya said. Mr. Sharma is a good man, but he's also a businessman. He recognizes value when he sees it. He sees something special in you. The hardest part was getting ready for school. Priya had been out of school for 2 years, and she was nervous about being behind the other students. Kavya took her shopping for school uniforms, books, and supplies. Everything was so expensive that Priya felt guilty. Don't feel guilty, Kavya said when she noticed Priya's expression. Education is an investment. Mr. Sharma knows that if he invests in you now, you'll do great things with your life. When Priya saw her new school uniform for the first time, she almost cried. It was clean and new, and it represented everything she had dreamed of having again. She tried it on and looked at herself in the mirror. She looked like a student again, the night before her first day of school. Priya sat with her grandmother in their new apartment. Her grandmother was sitting up in bed, looking much healthier than she had in months. Are you scared, child? Her grandmother asked. A little, Priya admitted. What if I can't keep up with the other students? What if they don't like me because I'm different? Her grandmother took her hand. Listen to me, Priya. You are just as smart as any of those students. Maybe smarter, because you've learned things they haven't. You've learned about kindness, about helping others, about being strong when things are difficult. Those are the most important lessons of all. But what if I fail? Then you'll get back up and try again. That's what strong people do. And you, my dear, are the strongest person I know. The next morning, Priya woke up early and got ready for school. She put on her new uniform and looked at herself in the mirror one more time. She thought about how different her life had become in just 1 week. Vikram had arranged for a driver to take her to school on her first day. As the car pulled up to the school gates, Priya saw a big, beautiful building with green lawns and students walking around in the same uniform she was wearing. "Are you ready?" the driver asked kindly. Priya took a deep breath. "Yes, I'm ready." As she walked through the school gates, she thought about the chain of events that had brought her here. If she hadn't given that boy water, if she hadn't helped him find his family, if she hadn't been kind when she had every reason to think only of herself, none of this would have happened. She realized that her grandmother had been right all along. Kindness really did come back to you. Sometimes it just took a little while to find its way home. Arjun was waiting for her at the school entrance, smiling widely. "Priya, you made it. Are you excited?" "Very excited," she said, and she meant it. "And a little scared? Don't be scared. I'll help you with everything. We're going to have so much fun learning together." As they walked into the school together, Priya felt like she was walking into a completely new life. She didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but she knew one thing for sure: she was ready to face them. After all, she had learned that sometimes the biggest changes in life come from the smallest acts of kindness. Her transformation was just beginning. 3 years had passed since that hot day when Priya first met Arjun. Now, at 18, she stood at the podium of her school's graduation ceremony, looking out at the hundreds of faces in the audience. She was wearing a special sash that marked her as the valedictorian, the student with the highest grades in her entire class. Her hands were shaking slightly as she held her speech. In the front row, she could see her grandmother sitting in a wheelchair, but looking healthy and proud. Next to her sat Vikram, his wife, and Arjun, who was now 15 and had become like a younger brother to her. They were all smiling at her with such love and pride that it made her feel strong. "Good morning, everyone," Priya began, her voice clear and confident. 3 years ago, I thought my life was over. I was a poor girl who had dropped out of school, spending my days cleaning houses and taking care of my sick grandmother. I had no hope for a better future. She paused and looked at her grandmother, who was wiping tears from her eyes. But then something happened that changed everything. I met a boy who needed help. He was lost, scared, and sick from the heat. I gave him our last bottle of water and spent the whole day helping him find his family. I didn't do it because I expected anything in return. I did it because it was the right thing to do. The audience was completely quiet, listening to every word. That simple act of kindness changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. The boy's father saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. He gave me a chance to come back to school, to learn, and to dream again. But more than that, he taught me that kindness creates a chain reaction that can change the world. Priya's voice grew stronger as she continued. I learned that it doesn't matter where you come from or how much money you have. What matters is how you treat other people. What matters is whether you choose to help someone when they need it, even when you have nothing to give. She looked out at all the young faces in the audience, her classmates who had become her friends, despite their different backgrounds. Today I want to tell you about the plans I have for the future. I've been accepted to medical college on a full scholarship. I'm going to become a doctor. But not just any doctor. I'm going to open a clinic in the neighborhood where I grew up. I'm going to help people who can't afford expensive medical care. The audience started clapping, but Priya held up her hand to continue. I'm going to call it the Water Bottle Clinic, because it will remind me every day that even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life. And I want all of you to remember that too. You don't have to be rich or famous to make a difference. You just have to care about other people. When she finished her speech, the entire audience stood up and clapped for a long time. Priya felt tears running down her face as she looked at all these people who were celebrating her success. After the ceremony, her family and friends gathered around her. Her grandmother, who could now walk short distances with help, hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, my dear child," her grandmother whispered. "Your mother would be so proud, too. I couldn't have done any of this without you, Nani. You taught me everything important." Vikram came up to them with a big smile on his face. "Dr. Priya," he said, "I like the sound of that." "I'm not a doctor yet," Priya laughed. "I still have 6 years of medical school ahead of me." "You'll make it," Arjun said confidently. "You're the smartest person I know, and the kindest." Over the next 6 years, Priya worked harder than she had ever worked in her life. Medical school was difficult, but she never forgot why she was there. Every time she felt tired or discouraged, she would think about the people in her old neighborhood who needed help. During her holidays, she would go back to visit her old area. She would see children playing in the same dusty streets where she had grown up. She would see families struggling with the same problems her family had faced, and she would promise herself that she would come back to help them. Arjun, who was now in college studying business, often visited her during medical school. They had remained close friends, and he had decided that he wanted to help with her clinic when she became a doctor. "I want to handle the business side of things," he told her one day. "You focus on healing people, and I'll make sure the clinic can afford to help as many people as possible." Vikram had also been thinking about the clinic. "I want to create a foundation," he told Priya. "We'll call it the Kindness Foundation. It will help fund your clinic and other projects that help poor people." When Priya finally graduated from medical school, she was 24 years old. Her grandmother, now in her 70s but still sharp and loving, was there to watch her receive her medical degree. "Now you really are Dr. Priya," her grandmother said with a huge smile. The day Priya opened her clinic was one of the happiest days of her life. The clinic was located right in the heart of the neighborhood where she had grown up. It was a clean, modern building with the best medical equipment, but it was designed to feel welcoming and comfortable for people who had never been to a fancy hospital. On the outside of the building, there was a sign that read, "Water Bottle Clinic, Free Medical. Care for All." And underneath, in smaller letters, "In memory of one bottle of water, shared with love." On the first day the clinic opened, there was a long line of people waiting outside. Priya recognized many faces from her childhood, neighbors, shopkeepers, and families who had been struggling with health problems for years. The first patient was an elderly man who had been coughing for months but couldn't afford to see a doctor. Priya examined him carefully and found that he had a treatable infection. She gave him medicine and scheduled him for follow-up visits. "How much do I pay, doctor?" the man asked. "Nothing," Priya said with a smile. "This clinic is free for everyone." The man's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do this for people like us?" "Because someone once did something kind for me when I had nothing," Priya said. "Now I want to pass that kindness on to others." As the months went by, the clinic became famous throughout the city. Rich people heard about it and started donating money to help it run. Medical students came to volunteer their time. Other doctors offered to work there for free, but the most important visitors were the people from the neighborhood. Children who had never seen a doctor before got there first. Checkups. Pregnant women received proper care. Elderly people got treatment for diseases they had suffered with for years. One day, a young girl about 10 years old came to the clinic with her mother. The girl was very sick with a fever, and her mother was crying because she couldn't afford to take her to a hospital. Priya examined the girl and found that she had a serious infection that needed immediate treatment. As she gave the girl medicine and explained to her mother how to take care of her, she saw something familiar in the woman's eyes, the same fear and desperation she had seen in her own grandmother's eyes years ago. "Doctor," the woman said, "I don't know how to thank you. You've saved my daughter's life." "You don't need to thank me," Priya said. "Just promise me that when you have a chance to help someone else, you will." The woman nodded through her tears. I promise. 5 years after opening the clinic, Priya was invited to speak at a big medical conference. Doctors from all over the country came to hear about her work. She stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of successful doctors, and told them the story of how her life had changed. I learned that being a doctor isn't just about treating diseases, she said. It's about treating people with kindness and respect. It's about remembering that everyone deserves good health care, regardless of how much money they have. After her speech, many doctors approached her. Some wanted to donate money to her clinic. Others wanted to start similar clinics in their own cities. A few even asked if they could come work at her clinic. "You started something amazing," one doctor told her. "You're changing the way people think about healthcare." But for Priya, the most important moment came later that evening. She was walking through her old neighborhood, visiting some of her patients, when she saw a young boy helping an elderly woman carry her groceries. "Why are you helping her?" she heard someone ask the boy. "Because she needs help," the boy answered. Simply, that's what Dr. Priya taught us. We should help each other. Priya smiled to herself as she walked home. The circle was complete. The kindness that had started with one bottle of water had spread throughout the entire neighborhood. Children were learning to help each other. Families were taken care of, their neighbors. And people who had been helped were finding ways to help others. That night, she sat with her grandmother in their comfortable apartment. Her grandmother was now in her 80s, but she was healthy and happy. "Are you proud of what you've accomplished?" her grandmother asked. "I'm grateful," Priya said. "Grateful that I learned the most important lesson of all, that kindness is the most powerful force in the world. When you give it away, it comes back to you multiplied," her grandmother smiled. "And now you're teaching that lesson to others. Your one act of kindness has become thousands of acts of kindness. That's how the world gets better, one person at a time."